Outside the box, outside the box, outside the box, outside.
Outside the box, outside the box.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Elhana Alexis, and this is Outside the Box. Now, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Outside the Box. My name is Elhana Alexis. So, tonight we are going to be discussing a topic that has been causing a lot of ruckus in Dominica, and it is splitting Dominica right down the middle. And a lot of people are staying away from that topic because usually the people, whenever someone talks about the topic, they're either painted blue or red, right? So I am being very brave tonight, and I'm going to give you my own analysis about that $1.2 billion. Some may agree, some may not agree. But what I'm saying is based on facts and only facts. So, this problem stemmed up from the 2019-2020 budget. The Prime Minister made his presentation, and within his presentation, he gave us all the estimates of 2018. And so within those estimates, there were the revenue estimates, which included the CBI revenue. The CBI revenue estimates for 2018-2019 were reported as $226 million. Now, let me tell you what is the problem with $226 million. The problem with $226 million as the total CBI revenue is that in 2018, the total revenue was over 300,000, right? Now, 2017, it was 300,000, or it was 200 and something thousand dollars. But 2017, you know what happened in 2017? Maria happened in 2017. However, in 2018, the revenue still increased, right? But what we are seeing is that 2019, the revenue decreased. And we remember that after Hurricane Maria, everyone kept talking about the CBI will help us and save us. And they pumped up the CBI even more. So we know that the CBI must have performed better in 2019 than it did in 2018. And for me, this is my problem with 226 million. And I believe that 226 million is not the right number, but not for the same reasons that has been highlighted. I will tell you honestly, I don't believe that it has been understated by $1.2 billion. It has not. But I do believe that it is being understated. And I will show you exactly why I think that it is being underestimated. In addition to what I just said, the fact that they have pumped more into CBI and they have put more groundwork into CBI. So they should have expected better performance from CBI. What we're seeing is that CBI seem to have declined, which is a problem because it is supposed to be doing better. So why was it only 226 million when it was when last year we budgeted and we expected it to be over 300 million. So what happened, right? So we need an explanation of why did it perform worse than the previous year. So here I have some numbers. Using the last few budgets, I came up with the numbers for the actual numbers for the CBI investment revenues. So the numbers kind of, as you can see, if you look at the blue areas, you'll see that there are numbers in a few years. There are numbers in certain fields and they are not there in certain other fields. That's because for 2015, they did not classify it and break it down in the different categories. They have the CIP program 16501. In 2016, they changed the way that they recorded it. In 2017, they changed that as well. And they started recording the certificate of naturalization, due diligence. They started breaking it down. They didn't have any agency fees separated. It seems like they put the agency fees together with the rest of everything. So they have changed their way of reporting the revenue. And that also is another problem because they're not uniform in how they report the revenue. So we can see that there's a problem in reporting the revenue because it changes every year. Every year they change how they record the revenue for CBI. So there's some, like so many differences in from year to year. I think it may have been one way in 2015 because the amounts were small, but from 2016 when it started getting bigger, they started breaking it down more, and so we can see that they changed the way they did it based on how many different avenues there were. I have some numbers here. What you see here is I use the numbers from the past budgets that stated the actual CBI revenues for the particular years. The reason why you see the empty spaces is because there have been many changes in the way they report it because the different categories have changed over the years. In 2015, I guess the amount was really much smaller. So, but I guess it wasn't as necessary to classify and to specify exactly which stream it came from because the amount was small. It looks like in 2016, they started separating the agency fees and separating the EDF. In 2017, they started putting the due diligence, the certificate of naturalization separate from. So we can see these are the changes over the years, right? But up here, at the top here, in the first line, where you see the purple, you'll see that the numbers have changed drastically, right? In 2015, it was 23 million. In 2016, it was 267 million, right? In 2017, it was 491 million. That's almost 500 million. So in 2018, when Maria actually happened, right? In 2018, Hurricane Maria took place right during the beginning of that financial year. And that year, we managed to make $315 million out of CBI. These are the numbers. This is the breakdown of the numbers. So those numbers tell us what's going on more than anything else. So the problem that I have is I am trying to understand why is 2019, right? Why was 2018, 2019, why was it only $226 million? Now, if you look, you will see that 2018 was 315 million. 2017 was 491 million. Now, if the CBI program is doing so well, why has it declined? Why is the revenue much lower than it was before? So that is why we are saying what we're saying. Well, what I'm saying is that if so much has been done and there has been so much progress and the CBI program is doing so well, why did it perform so poorly in terms of revenue? Now, if that is the real revenue, then that means that the government needs to explain to us why the CBI is not performing, right? As well as it did the previous years. Now, if the CBI only generated 226 million in the last financial year, what what is the basis of the estimate that this will almost double in the next financial year? So this is what we have to ask the government. If that is what we got, what is the reason for the decline? And if we're estimating that it's going to almost double in the next year, what will be the reason for that increase, right? So we don't even have to talk about $1.2 billion in order to talk about discrepancies in there. There are discrepancies in there, and it could be a reporting problem. But the thing is that all these numbers add up to the number that has been reported. Now, look at here. This last line here is the application fees, right? Look at this. Application fees in 2017, 6 million, right? Application fees in 2018, 2 million. In 2019, 250,000. Application fees is supposed to be somehow related to the number of applicants, right? Because each applicant pays a fee. So the amount of application fees, the rise in application fees would reflect increase in applicants. A decrease in application fee revenue would indicate a decrease in applicants, right? So if we're saying that we were at 2 million in application fees and now we're going to be 250,000, that means that is like 10% of last year. So that means all the applicants we got in 2019 is like 10% of last year, right? And look here, exactly 10%. We are predicting that it's going to be 10 times the amount of 2019 in 2020. Now this line here, this is the certificate of naturalization. Now every CBI applicant that is successful and actually gets Dominican citizenship, the process of conversion from whoever you are, from your Iranian or wherever you are from, to a Dominican, the process is called naturalization, right? Now, in order for that to happen, for each applicant that is successful, a certificate of naturalization has to be issued. If in 2017 we received $2.7 million in certificate of naturalization fees, right? In 2018, that almost doubled to 5.3 million, right? But in 2019, which is last year, it was less than half of the previous year, last year. So 2019, it was less than half of the previous year. It went down to $1.9 million, right? And they are predicting that, in this year's budget, they're saying that in 2020, it will be 2 million, which is just about 100,000 more than last year. So that means they're saying that the certificate of naturalization increase is not going to be that much, right? However, the application fees is going to be 10 times last year, right? How can that be then? Also, this amount here, this $101 million, that is the revenue they got from due diligence, right? From the applicants because the applicants have to pay a fee for the due diligence that needs to be carried out before they are awarded the citizenship. Now, before 2017, it was not itemized in the budget, but it was itemized in 2017, and that was 24 million. It doubled in 2018, 48 million. Right? That's when they said that they had to amp up and probably use a better system for due diligence or so forth. So they might have had more. The cost could have been higher, or they could have had, or it could be because of more applicants. However, in 2019, the due diligence amount, the amount they collected for due diligence was $101 million. And I saw in the budget earlier on the expenditure, the expense for due diligence was $101 million. So it could be that they increased. It could be that the cost increased, so they had to charge more money, or it could be that more people applied. And the due diligence they are projecting for the next year is 30 million. So why was it was okay, it was 24 million, then it like rose to 48 million, and then in only last year it was 101 million. What was that about, right? And then we have it going back down to 30 million. So they're gonna be spending spending less on due diligence, therefore, because that's why they're going to be receiving less for due diligence. So they're going to be receiving $30 million from the applicants for due diligence, whereas last year they received $101.7 million for that same thing. In the previous years, it was $24 and $48 million. So these numbers do not make sense. I came up with a graph here just to show a depiction of the numbers for the CVI revenue. Look at 2015. You see how small 2015 was. I guess at that time they were not focusing so much on it. And that was before the real estate option and before all the high campaigning that they're doing for the CBI. Right? I can understand it was that small. See how large it grew. Then 2019, you see how small 2019 is next to all those other years. You see how small it is, very small compared to the other towers next to it. So this is the EDF, what they claim to have received for EDF, and this is what they claim to have received for due diligence and application fees. And that's what this is 2020. That's what they're expecting. 2020, you see how large the EDF is for 2020. You can hardly even see the application fees and all those other things, certificate of naturalization and this thing, you can hardly see them, right? So those numbers, the certificate of naturalization and those things are so small that you can hardly see them anyway, right? But these are the numbers up there. And these are the numbers that they have claimed as being the numbers for the receipts for the past years. And these numbers, as I said, these numbers are coming from the previous budgets. I went into all these previous budgets and I got the actual figures from the previous years. And I put them in this one place together so we can look at them and follow them in one place. So this is what I see, and this is the main problem, my main problem with the numbers for the CBI revenues. In terms of what Lennox Linton is claiming, I do not agree with the $1.2 billion, but I do agree that there is some problem with the reporting of the revenue for CBI. And based on what I've just shown you, you can see that the numbers are distorted. There's not, you cannot see a pattern in the numbers because number one, all these things supposed to be going in the same direction. What I'm saying is, when I say the same direction, I mean, if the applications have increased, that means the due diligence should increase and the certificate of naturalization should also increase because all these parts come together. Each applicant has to pay for each one of those. So if there are less applicants, then we'll have less of each of them. If there are more applicants, there'll be more than each of them. So it makes no sense that there will be almost 10 times less. There was almost 10 times less in 2019, 10 times less application fees than the previous year. And then next year, there'll be like 10 times more application fees. However, there will be more than 10 times less in due diligence fees. So what we have there is Lennox method of calculation, and that's how he arrived at $1.2 billion. As he said that the number of passports that were issued in the 5 months between August and December of 2018, this was 3,961. And so in order for him to get a full year, he projected that if that was the amount for 5 months, then he calculated, which the standard calculation to get that would have been to divide this number by 5 and then multiply it by 12, and that would be 9,506 people, right? And so 9,506 people at 50,000, which he got based on the family of 4. He divided the 200,000 by 4 and he got 50,000. So when you multiply that number by 50,000, you get a total of $475 million. And when you convert that $475 million by multiplying it by 2.68, you will get 1.28 billion, well, $1.29 billion, which he called $1.2 billion. I think the numbers, the total, the actual number he got was different. I think he used 2.6 as his conversion figure and not 2.68. And so he got to 1.23 or something billion dollars. So this was Lennox calculation. Now, the problems with that calculation is that 3,961 passports were issued between August and December. That does not mean that these were the applicants during those months. It does not mean that all these applicants were all these applicants paid for the application during those months. Now, as we know, the process takes time. It takes a few months. So this takes 3 to 6 months sometimes, right? So an application that got through in August. So let's say if a passport was issued in August, that application may have come in since May or even April, right? Or it could have even come in March, February, right? So this number, the number of passports that were issued between August to December, is not a direct reflection of how many applications were received during that time. Now, as we know, these things, it's not a steady flow of every day, every month. And these are hundreds of thousands of dollars investments. So these are not things that come in every day. It's not every day that you have an applicant coming into an agency for that and actually making a payment. So to actually spread that amount over the year and project that over 9,000 people applied for citizenship, that is a wrong assumption, and this will lead you to a wrong number. And this is what happened. So he assumed that all these people were making applications, whereas I was doing some research, and I saw that in 2017 the head of the CBI unit, Emmanuel Nanton, said that the total applications for 2017 was between 1,005 and 2,000, right? I also believe that he may have underestimated that because he was speaking in a foreign event, and so he may have said less than it was, because things that you say always come back to bite you. However, if he said 1,500 to 2,000, it was probably 2,500 people, or probably 3,000 people. So I don't think that it is possible for 9,500 people to apply for citizenship for the year, because when we look at the other records of the other islands, 3,000. Dominica had 3,000, and that for the other islands, that was a large amount, and that was the highest amount. That was the highest number of applicants for the CBI program in Dominica than in the other islands. So it is not possible that this calculation will give you a right number, because that 9,000 is way too large to be true. So that is one That is one fault with that calculation. The second fault of the calculation is that Linton is assuming that all these 3,961 people, which he converted to 9,506 people, he's assuming that all these people were making that cash contribution. Whereas this would have been the total for every type, including the real estate type. Now, the real estate, when you invest in real estate, you're paying money directly to the developer. So people like Nasif, Sam, Raphael, these are the people that receive those funds for the real estate. So I mean, not they directly, but their company. So their company receives that money because they are the developers. So they receive that money so that they could do the building and whatever it is to, that's the investment fund. So these amounts cannot be put into the government's budget because it's not part of the public funds. No. So that alone, that's a big hole in the $1.2 billion. Now, as I said, the numbers that Lennox uses, he just assumes that everything is under the EDF option, right? Now, there are also variations in each of the options. You will have some people based on the EDF option, right? You will, let's say that was all EDF. That was all the contribution type. There are also different combinations of families. There may be a single person applying who has to pay $100,000, and then there may be a family who has to pay $200,000, and a man and his spouse or woman and a spouse, they will pay $175,000 for the two of them, right? So there may be many different combinations of that thing in terms of the total number. So here I have the total number of 3,961. If, for instance, 70% were families of 4, while 10% were single, and 20% of them were just a man and just a couple, then we would have had a total of 1,485 applications in all, right, for those 5 months. That would translate into 3,564 applications for the year, using his projection for the 5 years, for the 5 months, right? So we would have 3,564. That would be the number of applications. And then this is the total amount of money that it would have been. In EC, it would have been $1.5 billion, just EDF, right? So if that was the combination. Now I have many different combinations here. If 80% of them were families of 4, 5% were single, and 15% were one person and their spouse, there would be a total of 1,287, and then the total amount of money would have been $1.4 billion. Now this is all, remember, this is if everything is EDF, right? So if everything is based on the cash contribution, which we know is not true because we know there is also a real estate option, and as we can see, Jungle Bay is already completed, right? We can see we have how many other projects going on. So all these are already, that are still open, and people are still making investments into those real estate developments. So we know that some of it is going to real estate as well. So all is not going into EDF. So there are also other combinations, as you can see, 30% families, 10%, and the majority is couples. If we have the majority being single people, and we have 25% being families of 4, and then we have 25% also being a couple, then we would have the total being $2.1 billion. Right? So if we had this kind of combination, it could be $2.1 billion. Now, what I'm showing you is that these are the possibilities. This is how different the numbers, the totals can be based on the different combinations of what type of applications that we have, whether we have a family application, or we have a spouse, a person and a spouse, or we have a single person application. So you see all these different amounts is based on what type of combination. So it could be 1.5 billion, it could be 1.4, it could be 1.9, it could be 1.8, it could be 2.1, it could be 2.2, it could be 1.9 billion. Now what I did was I did an average of all those. I got an average of all those, right? And that would make it $1.8 billion in total. So an average of all the different combinations makes it like $1.8 billion in all, right? But this would be if that is totally EDF option. And remember, we are saying that 9,000 people, this number is based on 9,000 people, right? Which we know is not quite right, because we don't think that 9,000 people actually applied during the year, right? So I have something else here. I have another combination which makes a little more sense. If, let's say, based on the fact that so I did many variations of this thing. So based on the fact that I read that the majority of people choose the EDF function because it is easier and it's cheaper, right? So if we have more people doing EDF, if let's say 5% more people doing EDF, then we would have that amount of people. This would be the amount of people. That would be the total number of people, right? That would be 80% of the people. And then that would give our totals to be 1.2 billion. So we all in the billions, right? No matter what combination that we use. But remember, this is based on a number that is 9,000, right? So then the total would have been 9,000 something as well. So according to the CBI unit website, the price per citizenship certificate, so the naturalization certificate for anyone who becomes a citizen via the CBI program, then they will have to pay $250 for their naturalization certificate. Now that translates to 670 EC dollars. This means that in 2017-18, there were 8,015 certificates issued, right? In 2018-19, there were 2,836 certificates issued. And it looks like they are planning to issue 2,985 certificates next year. So this is the number that I would use to calculate how much that they're expecting, how many people that they're expecting to turn into citizens, how many people they're expecting to apply, right? And so that's what it looks like. Now, as I said before, the numbers do not make sense. Now, it looks like in 2017-18, as you can see from this, you'll see that the certificate of naturalization was $5 million, right? It is expected to go all the way down to $2 million next year. And they're saying that 2018-19, it was $1.9 million. This looks like it makes sense. This looks like the decrease in the number of certificates issued looks kind of almost proportional to the amounts, the differences in the amounts from the year to year. So it looks like this might make more sense than anything else. Now, you see how much higher the certificates issued is in 2017, right? 2018. Look at the total at 315, right? But it's not that much more than 2018, 2019, but it is almost 100 million more, right? 2018, 19, and 2020, the difference in certificates is not that much. We'll see they issued 2,836 certificates, and they're planning to issue 2,985. They're planning to issue just about 100 less, 100 more, even less than 100 more, right? However, they are hoping that the economic diversification fund is going to double, right? These numbers, again, as I say, these numbers do not make sense. So the economic diversification fund, it's expected to increase so much, but the number of certificates issued, the number of new citizens, doesn't look like it's going to increase that much. Just like the number of the amount for application fees. For the application fees, I believe that this number, this $250,000, was supposed to be $2.5 million, just like the others, but it was probably an error. And then that one error there, they didn't even realize that error, and they calculate everything with an error. They calculate the entire amount with that error, not even noticing the error. Right? So that could have been 2 million more than that. It could have been 228 or 229 million, but that would still be under the number that we would probably want it or expect it to be, since the previous year was 315 and we are planning to bring it to 418. So these are the numbers that I have here. These are the numbers that I use. So based on those numbers that I just said that I used, this is what I came up with an alternate expectation of what the totals should have been. Considering the fact that not only are we looking at the economic diversification fund, we're also looking at the real estate fund. So there, some of the applicants are applying through the real estate option, right? Now I'm gonna show you where I want to take this. So I'm going based on registration, right? Based on registration, if 100% was EDF, if 100% was economic diversification fund, this is what it would have been, right? So so if all was EDF, right? So remember, this is based on all EDF, not real estate. First, I'm doing it like that first to show the difference between what Lennox had and what is realistically based on what is realistic based on the numbers that we have, right? So based on the number of certificates issued, we have 2,836, right? Some of those were so 2,836 certificates issued, and this is for that year. So based on these numbers, if we have, I also did the different combinations. So if we have that combination 70%, 10%, 70%, 10%, and 20%, we'll be expecting $186 million, right? If we have another combination, this other combination, 85 and 15%, we will expect $173.5 million. Now, all these are based on, that's US dollars, right? So I have all these different combinations again, right? And then here I have the average would be $221 million. 221 million US dollars, and in EC dollars that would be 592 million EC dollars, based on if everything was EDF. So what we're seeing is that the total would have been 592 if everything was EDF. However, everything is not EDF. So I did it based on 50, if half was EDF and half was real estate. Now, if half was EDF and half was real estate, that would mean only 4,493 people went through the EDF. So the rest of the people, their money would be going directly to the developers, while these 1,493 people would be going to the government account. Now I also did the different combinations as well. We have 80%, 5%, 15%. We have 30%, 10%, 60% of the different combinations, right? And that will give us totals of 93 million for the first combination, 86, 115, 108, 125 million, 132 million for another combination. And some of them these are equal. So we have 10% here, we have 10% being families and 50% being couples. So I just tried to mix up the combinations as much as I could and get an average. And using that average, this would be the total for in EC dollars, right? Based on 2,800 people, which is what they're saying that they issued certificates for. Now we're going to come to something else, and which I'm sure that somebody is going to say, right? And it is true. If you're thinking it, it's true, because here they are saying that certificate of naturalization. When I did the calculation based on the price, it said that there were 2,836 certificates issued under the CBI program. However, as Lennox said, I did not see the Gazette, but I will believe that that's the number that's in there, because nobody contested the fact that that number was in there. So if that number was in here saying that from August to December 2018, 3,961 passports were issued, then that means that for that year we should not have less than that number of certificates being issued, right? So these numbers, as I said, these numbers do not make sense. So the fact that Lennox Linton is saying it is $1.2 billion, at least it gets the idea out there that some money is missing. There's a problem with the reporting. The numbers do not make sense. But I don't believe it to be $1.2 billion, because our GDP is $1.4 billion. Do you believe that only the CBI program is so successful that it is generating more money than the entire country can generate? Also, our debt is $1 billion. Is about $1 billion. Are you saying that the CBI can just pay off all our debt? So I want to agree that money is missing. I do agree that money is missing. I do agree that there's a problem in the reporting, but it's not $1.2 billion. And I will agree that the government needs to come and give us an explanation of the numbers, and to look over these numbers and correct the numbers and give us the right amounts, because these numbers do not make sense, right? So this is the conclusion for tonight. The conclusion for tonight is that the numbers that we have been given in the estimates, they do not make sense. Number one, you can clearly see that this $250,000 under application fees is missing a zero. So, and all the numbers calculate correctly to add that number. It's not like the total adds 2.5 million and it's just a typographical error. It's not just missing a zero. The entire calculation is done with it without that extra zero. There's no way that the application fees can go from 2 million to 2 million to 250,000, and we're still expecting next year for it to be $2.5 million, right? So those numbers don't make sense, and someone needs to explain to us what happened, or else people will continue saying that 1.2 billion is missing, and that means that a lot of people will not know what's going on, and the government, if they keep on ignoring it and making it seem like nothing's wrong, although $1.2 billion may not be missing, but something is definitely wrong with the accounting and the numbers, and mistakes are being made and they're not being corrected. It's either mistakes are being made and not being corrected, or they are being these wrong numbers are being put in deliberately to hide something. So I'm making this appeal. Please make it clear to us so we can understand what's going on, and that will eliminate the need for all the assumptions and the wrong assumptions and all the imaginations and all those wishful thinking and whatever it is, because I really do wish that the CBI could really generate $1 billion in a year. And if that is the case, I do hope that it's somewhere. Now with the escrow account, there's no way that the escrow account can be counted in the budget. However, we need to be able to get a number, an amount, how much money so far has been raised, how much money is available to us in those accounts, right? So or how much money have we raised in those accounts, because we do know that in that account the money goes into the escrow account, and then the developers or whoever it is that collected the money, the agents under that special program, the company under that special program, they would remove their costs and take their percentage, and then the balance would be for Dominica. So I understand that total amount cannot be counted in our budget, because we also have to understand that is money that we also have to pay out of that money to the developers, to the company. But we also need to be able to have an account of what's going on with that money. We should be able to get updates on how much money we have so far and how much is the cost so far, something like that. But I understand why it cannot be counted in the budget, but I understand that. But I also wish that there could be a way that the government can also let the people know how that account is doing, right? So and also I know that once this project is completed, the money is transferred to the different accounts. So it might be an issue of having to wait until a particular time when that money can be transferred to our account and actually be called ours after the project is done. And probably in the meantime, we should just wait. I don't know. So we need information on that. So that was my little. So this was my take on the CBI and the missing $1.2 billion. I believe that the government needs to come and clarify the issue and let us know exactly why. I mean, there have been many attempts by the government and agents of the government to explain, but I can still sense some secrecy in some, like they're divulging information, but there's still some type of secrecy that you can see them where they're divulging, but they're being very careful in what information that they let out. And I would really like to see more honesty and more openness, more transparency in that. So in the meantime, guys, please like and subscribe so you won't miss the next videos, because I have a lot in store for you. And guys, remember, small island does not mean small thinking. Just like to remind you, like, subscribe. Outside the box, outside the box, outside the box. Yes, honest, open and fair, outside the box. And